from the Post Millennial. Bud Light parent company to invest $300 million to manufacture in the U.S. This new $300 million investment in our manufacturing facilities across the U.S. Will it work?
That's not going to fix Dylan Mulvaney.
I don't think it will. I think Bud Light's screwed. I do think less people care than most people think. I go out to any bar or any casino and everybody's drinking Bud Light. However, they have not recovered from the damage caused by Dylan Mulvaney. They're now announcing they're going to do this big investment in the United States. Anheuser-Busch InBev's North American branch is going to start manufacturing in the United States. They're based in Missouri. Where were they manufacturing before? Mexico?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
I think so.
Well, then, I guess that was a simple story. Nobody believes this will save Bud Light.
No.
I think Bud Light is still the piss beer of choice among, most Americans. If I'm just looking for a piss beer to drink real quick, I'll sip on a Bud
Natty
Light if
Light,
I
bro.
need to. It's kind of whatever's there. So like Bud Light, boom, all right, whatever. Like
We did an
reliable bad beer.
We did an event right after the Dylan Mulvaney thing happened, and like we had to talk to the bar about it because they had Bud Light prominently displayed, and we were like, it's probably a bad idea. Like, look, honestly, I don't care if people want to buy a Bud Light. I mean, they probably get laughed at. And then they took all the display Bud Lights down and said, like, we're a bar. We're not going to just throw out all our Bud Light, but we get it. And I was like, hey, man, I don't care if you show it or don't, but I'm just, like, I'm wondering what you guys think. And they thought it'd probably be smart to get rid of the Bud Light.
Yeah. I didn't realize there's still a hangover from the whole Dylan Mulvaney thing.
It never
I don't know
went
the last
away.
time I even had Bud Light, so I'm the wrong audience. But
Well, it's not just that. It's that young people don't drink sugar and booze and stuff anymore.
yeah, well, they're not even going outside, so how could that happen exactly?
Maybe this is the problem. Maybe the reason the younger generation isn't getting laid is because they just don't go outside and get drunk.
Well, yeah. Actually. Where would you get drunk and late? College. They
Could it
canceled
be-
college for a year.
They say that civilization owes everything to beer because it was the humans that stopped to ferment the wheat and the barley and stuff to make beer that resulted in agrarian society and civilization in towns. Humans used to be nomadic, and then they were like, wait, we can't leave. We got all this beer. Could it also be that the only reason people have kids is because they get drunk?
Yeah.
I'm half kidding, by the way.
That's a little rapey, but
What do you mean?
well, that's because the left would call that rapey. They would say, oh, if you're in any way inebriated, then you can't consent, and if you can't consent, then it's a sexual assault.
No, Phil. The woman is getting the man drunk.
Oh, fair enough. But even
The woman's dead sober.
well, if you're progressive enough, then the woman getting the man drunk is also sexual.
Still a problem.
Yeah, it's still a problem. But it is true. I mean, there's a lot of social interactions that wouldn't have happened unless people had a couple drinks. And it's very normal, as much as the left wants to try to demonize you for it, it's very normal for someone to go ahead and be like, you know what, I'll have a couple drinks. So that way my inhibitions I'm not so self-conscious. My inhibitions are a little bit lower, and I can go talk to people, and I can hang out with people.
Remember this one?
Exactly.
Super viral. This was a poster at, what was it, Columbia? Coastal Carolina University. It said, Jake was drunk. Josie was drunk. Jake and Josie hooked up. Josie could not consent. The next day, Jake was charged with rape.
Yeah.
A woman who is intoxicated cannot give her legal consent for sex, so proceeding under these circumstances is a crime. It only takes a single day to ruin your life. This is another point I make about wokeness. People need to understand, woke wasn't always race. Like the left culty nonsense was very much the Me Too movement with things like this, illogical, unjust, and it was gender based. So there you have it. And I think the Gen Z kids who grew up with this took it to heart, and that's why they hide.
Yeah, I mean, imagine you're a boy who sees this kind of propaganda your whole life. Of course, you're going to be afraid of women. Of course, you're going to be afraid that she's going to accuse you of something that you didn't do years later. Of course, you're not going to want to even try, because even trying is considered creepy or considered in some way toxic masculinity. And then women wonder, well, where are all the men? Well, this propaganda is preventing boys from even wanting to be men and take risks and put themselves out there. And both women and men are suffering. So I hope people see this and they realize, oh, okay, well, why do we have a decline in birth rate? Why are people not actually connecting? Why are people not in relationships? It's this kind of rhetoric that doesn't have compassion for either side and treats the man always as some sort of toxic aggressor, and always the woman's completely abnegating all responsibility. It's killing both of us.
Well, it treats women as if they're consistently things are happening to them, whereas as opposed to actually having any kind of agency. But as soon as they want to have agency, of course, they have to be, you know, looked at as a strong woman that can, you know, boss bitch kind of thing. But then in any context in which they don't want to deal with the repercussions, and society really encourages this kind of behavior, but any situation where women don't want to deal with the repercussions, well, then they were victims. They were somehow, you know, put in this position. It was put upon. It wasn't their fault. And society's been teaching men that the worst thing you can do is to in any way make a woman feel uncomfortable. You know, it is wrong, obviously, to, you know, to be aggressive and hit people or you know, sexual assault. But if you just awkwardly ask a woman out, right, you like you mentioned, you're risking your reputation. You're risking all kinds of you know, social repercussions, and that's the way that women, you know, punish people and each other is through social interactions. And so the value for a man to young men to go and actually ask women out, like, it's a really, really dicey proposal, you know, and they're deciding that, you know, porn and video games is better than risking being embarrassed.
Considering that millennials are only just now having kids and it's still at very low rates, and Gen Z is not having kids either, Gen Beta is probably going to be 30 million. Gen Alpha is 40. Some say it could go upwards of 48, maybe, if we add another year or two to the bracket. But then Gen Beta is going to be microscopic.
Jeez.
Nobody's having kids.
Yeah.
And this is people don't understand. There's this great post by who posted this? Someone, I can't remember who posted it. It was like a Milton Friedman thing about a pencil. Let me see if I can find this one. Do you know that saying?
Where no one can make a pencil.
Yeah.
Or it takes like a whole world.
It was Austin Peterson posted it. There you go. And let me see if I can pull it up. It's that no one can make a pencil.
Yep.
It is through economics. He posted it the other day.
I am somebody who is pro-choice, but I think there's something to be reckoned with about the consequences of giving women such easy access to be able to control their ability to reproduce. So 20 years ago, teen pregnancy used to be everywhere. Teen pregnancy used to be a huge thing. They used to have a show on MTV, Teen Mom, I think it was. There are no teen moms anymore. All the young women, all women's in their teens are on birth control if they are having sex. And if they do get pregnant or aborting their kids, or they don't even have to have a surgical procedure, they could just use the abortion pill or mifepristone, which the Trump administration recently struck down a lawsuit to help restrict. So while being pro-choice, I still understand that there are consequences to abortion and access to abortion pills and contraceptives have on birth rates. I know that's so obvious to say, but still, I think we need to look at from a bird's eye view, if that makes sense. Yeah. Like, women's ability to stop themselves from getting pregnant affects birth rates.
Yes. Can I tell you a story? Or actually, does Tim, do you have a thing that you wanted to show?
I was going to, no, I couldn't find it. I was saying real quick, the point of the pencil thing I was bringing up is that when the population shrinks, our ability to produce technologies goes with it.
Yeah.
So, no, you're not going to have PlayStation. Like, the less people there are, the closer you're going to get to working on a farm.
So I want to tell you guys a story. Can I do that?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay, so 2 weeks ago, I was in Japan, and I went to Osaka. And so dope. And I was just walking around with some friends, and we met these girls. And they're like 22, 23, one from Canada, one from the US. So we're just, joking around, having a good time. And then eventually I hear one of the girls say, Trump and JD Vance need to die. Top of her lungs. We're like walking around Osaka. She says it once. I'm like, what is going on? She says it again. I don't know if it was after that second time or the third time that I confronted her about it. Not aggressively, but it's like, hey, well, like, what's going on here? And I made a joke about, do you hate men, or like, you hate Republicans? What's going on here exactly? All of a sudden, the conversation devolved into a conversation about abortion. Now, my position is like yours. I think it's just untenable for women to not have the right to choose. I think an abortion is always a tragedy, though, and I would like to see women choosing to have abortions much less. 93%, at least 93% of abortions are not medically necessary. It's just a choice. And I get why women make the choice. It can be scary to bring a child into the world. I think many men are abandoning their duty of helping to protect and to provide. I understand why women do it. And it's always a tragedy regardless of the reason. they were not, of course, not able to listen to me, and they kept on trying to yell me down. Eventually, I keep explaining, hey, I'm just pro choosing life. I'm not telling you shouldn't have the right to choose. I'm just saying men and women need to work together so we have fewer abortions. I sidelined with one of the women. The other one was having nothing to do with me at that point. I sidelined with one of the women, and she tells me at age 8, her mom told her that she almost aborted her.
Wow.
This woman had just argued vehemently for abortion while telling me that her mom had almost not brought her into this world. And when I pointed out the contradiction, she tried to justify it. It's like, well, it would have been the right choice if my mom chose to make it. It's like, sorry, I'm not going to buy into the delusion that any world in which you exist is a better world. That's insane.
Especially for that person to say of themselves.
Exactly.
So self-loathing, frankly.
Exactly. But this is what's happening to young women. Young women, look, women are 2 times more likely to be anxious than men. Women are more susceptible to psychological manipulation. That's okay because women have other things that they're good at relative to men. I don't want a man taking care of my child in daycare. I want a woman doing that. But it used to be that men and women worked together. Men could protect women from these dangerous, toxic ideas. But now it's like, yeah, go be a boss, babe. You don't need a man. Go work, climb the corporate ladder. Then they realize they don't even want to do that when they're age 30. And yeah, birth control, which they're taking from the time that they get a period, is distorting who they're even attracted to. So they're not attracted to masculine men anymore. And it's teaching women that having a child is the end of your life, when no, it's the beginning of another. So yeah, there's this very insidious thing that's going on with this. It's like, it's a thing behind wokeism, which is extinctionism, really, in my mind.
You know, having a kid recently.
Congratulations.
I thank you. I think the pro-life side is really bad at articulating their arguments. They can't communicate effectively with liberals. And I saw this. Did you see this Charlie Kirk debate on abortion that went viral recently? Because the guy said he thinks that life doesn't begin until consciousness forms. And then Charlie says, so you'd be fine if you were 6 months, the baby being killed? And he says, yes. So the issue is for these people, because Vosh, for instance, argued this. I think he argued it on this show when he was debating Charlie Kirk, actually, that, or with me maybe, I said, when does life begin? He says, sometime after birth. When? You know, the fascinating thing is babies have personalities, and what's happening is these liberals have not ever been around a baby. They've not spent time with babies. They don't know that babies are people that literally act like people. Like, and I know that everybody's got kids and they're like, we all know this already. For me, hearing the pro-life arguments never articulate simple things like babies technically are talking the whole time. They're communicating with you. What the left then does is they argue that for the first 3 months, babies can't actually form any real memories, and they don't talk, they don't do anything, so they're not really alive. That's literally the argument they're making. That's how they justify abortion to the point of birth. Whereas if, you know, the pro-life side largely just says life begins at conception, I got a better argument. My daughter doesn't use words, but she's talking. And so in the past week or so, she started communicating vocally, as she was already communicating non-vocally, but I wouldn't call it verbally. So for instance, first she cries. And we get it, a baby crying because baby needs something. I think liberals can get that. But I'm learning a lot. So for instance, at like 2.5 months, my daughter started going, and we know literally what she's saying. So for instance, we do tummy time. That's when you put the baby on the stomach so that she can learn to crawl and lift her head and start building those muscles. You do it temporary. You do it for short periods. At first, she would cry when she got tired. Now she goes, and we're like, I don't care what language you're speaking. If a French guy exasperated in that way in French, I get the point. So what I'm learning is, and again, I know parents already know all this stuff. I'm saying, from what I've learned, I would advocate for pro-life individuals to use that knowledge in their arguments. So when a liberal says life doesn't begin, no, babies are vocally communicating with you right away, and they have personalities. Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.